Great stuff. Hi, Mike. Hi, Neil. How are you doing today?
Hi, Judy. Hi, Mike.
Yeah, all good, thanks.
All
Looking
good,
forward
good.
to
Thank you.
a good chat about focus groups.
Well, absolutely. So welcome along to our latest Data Insight Action interview, where today we're going to be exploring focus groups. And we're delighted to be joined by Neil Harrison, Head of National Accounts at TA6, powered by Alliance Leisure. So thanks, Neil, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Good stuff. So, Mike, I'm going to start off the session asking you some questions around focus groups. Specifically, what are they and what value can you get from a focus group?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we've been doing these pretty much as long as LeisureNet Solutions has been going on, because we started off just doing what we call quantitative type research, which is your typical user surveys, non-user surveys, NPS, things like that. But what we discovered really quickly was that, and I think it's made even more important by the nature of the sector we're in, that it's really important to get the qualitative type information as well. And by that I mean the more subjective personal views and individual comments, whether they be users or non-users of our sector. Our sector is very much about inspiration, motivation, ambition, achieving targets, and sometimes that just doesn't come across with figures. Whereas if you can actually hear people talking about their own personal stories and journeys, I think it just is an incredibly powerful thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And having delivered a number of focus groups since I've been here at LeisureNet, it could be quite emotive, can't they? A lot of emotion comes through, which you obviously don't see from a survey or through other methods. So that's been quite striking when I've certainly been sat in on focus groups. So let's explore these further. So Neil, coming to you, obviously we've recently worked together on a project which was fantastic. So what made you think about bringing in focus groups to a brand review, essentially?
Yeah, the client we've been working with, we're supporting on a brand creation for them, and we wanted a really thorough process to make sure we got the brief correct. And we went through a process of consultation through various platforms. So we used a survey, and we felt it was necessary to talk to users of the facility, partners of the facility, and widen that up and gain as much local information as possible to support the creative brief that we collectively came to at the end of the research.
Fantastic. And how did including focus groups support with the project and the brand development?
I think it gave us a really local feel to what's important to the users. I think that was really essential for us to get underneath the skin of, for the purpose of brand creation, what the general feeling of is of the users of the facilities. That really helped us get to know the product very quickly with some valuable insight that we could then transcend into a creative brief to come up with some concepts for the clients.
Yeah, that's really interesting around that speed part, because again, having been involved in the project and seeing some of the data prior to the focus groups, what came through when we conducted the focus groups was that real strong sense of community, locality for the residents, and actually a real sense of ownership and pride in their facilities. So it certainly helped speed up the project for you guys.
Yeah, and I think it brings it in more to a three-dimensional approach when you get that feedback directly from users. The wider you cast the net, the more information you're going to get. So the survey was great as an introduction, but moving forward to gain that valuable insight on a face-to-face forum proved invaluable for us.
Brilliant. And on that, in terms of who was invited along to the focus groups, of course, we had the community side, but you were very keen, weren't you, to extend this to other stakeholders to ensure that the voice of other groups were heard?
Yeah, I think getting the balance of the different key stakeholders was really important. Users is great and it's important, but obviously there are other people with varied interests within the organisation that we had to balance the feedback out. And by doing that, again, I think we gained valuable insight by doing that.
Brilliant. And so on top of the other data sets that you had, those different stakeholder focus groups really contributed to the quality of the information that you guys received.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
Fantastic. And so, Mike, coming back to you in terms of your experience with focus groups, what would you recommend to operators at the moment or other industry colleagues who are going through change, need this level of insight? Do you have any words of wisdom you could share with us right now?
Yeah, sure. Always got words of wisdom.
I know.
Question of we've only got a few minutes, but I guess I sort of thought about three key points that I wanted to get over today. And I was just thinking while Maya was talking there, I think particularly with public sector operators, that it's really important to do this sort of consultation. Probably more so than the private sector, because it's just absolutely crucial that what is the decisions that are made is that the local communities are really engaged with that, and focus groups help that. I guess the first point for me is that this qualitative engagement is essential to complement the quantitative survey type stuff. I would always recommend people do the qualitative focus groups perhaps after an initial survey. I find it really useful to do that, because otherwise what you're doing is starting focus groups with blank sheets of paper, and they're not as productive as when you've got a steer or a framework that you've been given by the survey. So use the sort of surveys to get the broad brush picture of things, but then use the focus groups to take those results and say, let's just check and challenge that. We think it means this, but does it really? Because quite often when you sit down and speak to people and share the results of the survey and say, can they explain that a little bit better? They come up with different things, and you realise that the survey by itself doesn't quite paint the picture enough. Secondly, I think, again, this goes back to the nature of our sector. The power of story should never be underestimated. So it doesn't matter whether your audience is internal, external, whether it's clients or your users or your non-users, the power of an individual story about how physical activity has changed someone's lives is incredibly powerful. And we've, over the years, have heard some incredible stories about how important physical activity opportunities are in general, how individual members of staff in gyms or group exercise classes and swimming instructors have changed the whole quality of individuals' lives. So if you can, out of focus groups, get some individual stories, I think that's really, really good. And then finally, I think the actual process of the group work with users and non-users can be a powerful and engagement tool for all parties. So sometimes just the fact that you're getting users or non-users in a room can stimulate some thoughts that you wouldn't otherwise have had, and also is beneficial for the image and image of the organisation, the perception that the community has on it, because it shows that you're really listening. And sometimes surveys, people don't know how many people are doing surveys and what the numbers are, and if they're really taken notice of. I think if you do focus groups and make sure that you feed back to those people at the end of the group session, then it's a whole new approach to just doing surveys. So I think the combination of the two is really, really beneficial.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks for sharing that with us, Mike. And coming back to the work that we've just recently done with yourself, Neil, at TA6, there was a real outpouring and a lot of interest in being a part of having their voice heard and being a part of the new brand, essentially, which I think was, I was certainly surprised by how many people wanted to be a part of it. So again, bringing through that story and that element of group work is really important in so many areas, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, the journey that we went on by and starting our process with a survey, the response from that was fantastic, and the amount of people that wanted to get involved with the focus groups really was credit to the local operator, their environment they're creating. So I think giving people the platform to tell their story was essential for us. To be able to bring that creative brief to life. So yeah, people really like to engage and they want to be able to have an input and have a voice. I think it's an important factor and part of the process.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, it was a great project to be a part of. Well, that's the latest in our series of Data Insight Action. So we'll be bringing more nuggets of information next month, where we'll explore either a specific data set or other research methods. Again, if anyone would like anything in particular covered in any of these sessions, pop a message in the notes below. But that just leaves me, Neil, to thank you very much for joining us today and sharing your thoughts and experience. Mike, thank you ever so much as always. And we'll look forward to seeing you again very soon.
Brilliant. Thanks,